What's up? Welcome to Backend Stuff. I'm Jacob Litzo. Today we are going to use Guardian.DB to track JSON Web Tokens of authorized accounts. Guardian.DB is a simple module that hooks into Guardian to prevent playback of tokens. In Guardian, tokens aren't tracked, so the only way to make a token inactive is to set an expiration date and wait for that time to arrive. What Guardian.DB does is it takes an active role and it stores each token in the database, verifying it's present. If the token isn't present, then the token can't be verified. So this allows us to revoke tokens generated by Guardian because currently, any token, if it's not expired, has access to our protected endpoints. So let's just jump right into our project and start implementing Guardian.DB. I'm going to open up our Real Deal API project, and let's jump into our mix.exs file right away. And we're going to just add a dependency. We're going to add Guardian.DB. So right under Guardian, let's just go ahead, opening curly brace, Guardian_DB, comma, opening quotations, tilde, and then greater than. And the version we're going to use is 2.0. And then we need a comma after the closing curly brace, since we have bcrypt underneath it. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's open up our terminal and cd into our project. Mine is in Documents, Develop, BS, and then Real Deal API. And then let's just do a mix space deps.git to install Guardian.DB. And there we go. Guardian.DB is installed. And now we need to set up our configuration file to use Guardian.DB. So let's go ahead and expand config and then double click our config.exs file. And just underneath our JSON library config, we can just do a return there, and then we're going to do a config and then colon Guardian, comma, and then we want to do Guardian with a capital G, Guardian.DB, capital DB, comma, and then we'll tab in, and the repo is just our Real Deal API .repo, and that's just our repository module, right? And then comma, and then we need to set the schema name that Guardian.DB is going to create. And our schema name, you can call this anything, but we're going to call it schema_name colon, in quotations, we're going to call it Guardian_tokens. And when we're going to be executing a command that Guardian.DB gives us that will actually create our database migration file, and it's going to call our table that we create Guardian_tokens. Okay. Now, comma, we want one more thing, sweep_interval, and we're going to set this to 60. What the sweep interval is actually, they have a sweeper server that comes included with Guardian.DB that any expired token every 60 minutes will get removed from the database, because that's how we are actually revoking tokens. If our token does not exist in the database, it will be an invalid token. So anything that's not in there, so if it expires or gets revoked, it gets removed from our database, and that allows us to control what tokens have access to our protected endpoints. So 60 is the default value. So every 60 minutes, the sweeper will run through that table and remove any expired tokens. And by default, with Guardian.DB, all the tokens are set to 28 days to expire unless we revoke them sooner. All right, and that's all we need to do in our config file. Now, to sweep expired tokens from our database, we need to add a command to our supervision tree, which is in our telemetry file. So let's go ahead and expand lib, and then our Real Deal API web, and then you'll find telemetry.ex. Let's open that up. And in our supervision tree, in this children list, we want to just go ahead and put a comma after this curly brace. And then underneath, we just need to do an opening curly brace, Guardian.DB.token.sweeper server, and then do a comma, and then an empty list, and then close this curly brace. And that will now allow us to execute the token sweeper, and it will remove any expired tokens. Guardian.DB works by hooking into the lifecycle of our Guardian module. So we need to override some Guardian functions in our Guardian.ex file. So let's pull up let's expand auth and then Guardian.ex. And you remember probably creating this just underneath create token. Let's make some space. We have to override 3 functions: after encode and sign, on verify, and on revoke. These are used in the background by Guardian already when we're authenticating and creating tokens. But what happens when we add them to our Guardian.ex, our override functions will get called instead of Guardian's. So this is going to allow us to use Guardian.DB to add things to our database instead of just creating the tokens and not keeping track of anything. We are going to go to Guardian.DB documentation. So hex.docs.pm/Guardian_DB, and then the Guardian.DB.html. And we're going to go to right here. So see this example in our auth tokens. These 3 functions we need to grab. So the after encode and sign, on verify, and on revoke, we're going to copy. And now we're going to paste that right underneath create token. That is all we have to add to our Guardian.ex file. So let's save that. Now we can generate our migration files to create our database table for Guardian.DB. So if you pull up the terminal, we can just do mix space Guardian.DB.gen.migration. And this will create our database migration file to create the Guardian_token table. So I'm going to hit enter. And now you can see that it created our migration file. So if we come down into if we expand the priv directory and then the repo directory and then the migrations directory, you see a new migration here. And we see the Guardian tokens. And then you see JTI, which is the JSON token ID. And then you see a couple other things here, and we'll run through this later, but you see the AUD, and then you see a type, which will be like an access token or whatever. And then you see the ISS, and I think that's the issuer. So you'll probably see the name of our API project there. And then you see subject, SUB, which will actually be our account ID. And then you see the expiration date, and then you see the actual token that's being stored, JWT. And then you see that there's a claims, which is a map, which is actually pretty much just an embedded object in our database. And that embedded object is actually just all this information in claims. So if we need to access it through the claims struct, we can. All we have to do now is run mix ecto migrate, and this will create our database table. But first, let's open up our dashboard to Docker, and let's just make sure our database is running. Ours is. If yours isn't, make sure you press the play button there. And now let's just pull up our terminal again. Now that our migration table's here, all we have to do is do mix ecto migrate. And then there we go. It created a table. And now if we want to verify that that table is there, we can go to our Docker dashboard, click on this container, go to terminal. And now to log into our database, which is the real deal API dev, we can just do PSQL space dash capital U space backend_stuff. And then the name of the database, which is real_deal_API_dev. And we can hit enter. And now we're in that database. And now let's look for our table. So select all capital and then an asterisk. All right. And then from all capital. And now the name of our table, which is Guardian_tokens. We need a semicolon. My bad. There we go. All right, so now you can see that our table got created. You see our JTI, our AUD, the type, the ISS, the subject, the expiration, and obviously nothing is in this table yet, but our migration file worked. So let's go ahead and close this for now. Let's go ahead and spin up our server just to test to see that our tokens get inserted now. So if we do mix phx.server, that'll spin up our server. And then let's go ahead and open up hopscotch.io. When we sign in, we can just use the client2 at realdealapi.com and then fake_password, because that's what we updated the password for in the past video. We have our localhost /API accounts sign in. Let's go ahead and sign in. And there we go. We got our new token created. And now if we go to our Docker dashboard and go back to our terminal, and let's go ahead and let's look at our Guardian tokens table again. And now you actually see that we have an object in there. It's a little messy to read. As you can see, we have our object ID, Real Deal API, so our project name, it's an access token. And then the issuer was also our API. And then we have our account ID here. We have an expiration date, and this would convert to about 28 days, I believe. And then we have our whole token right here. So that's really cool. So now when we sign in or create accounts, Guardian.DB is already overriding all the Guardian functions and will automatically get inserted into our database. Let's sign in again. All right, so we signed in to our client 2, all right, and we need to grab this account ID, and let's get account by ID and put that up here in our URL. And then we need to grab this new token, copy, and let's do bear space our new token. And now when we send it, we get our account back. So that's really cool. It found our token in the database and it knows we have access. So we got access. And now let's make a sign out function that will revoke our tokens. So anytime we're signed in, we have an active session going, we need a sign out endpoint that will revoke our token and clear our session. Because if you remember in one of the last videos, we are storing the session of the current logged in account. So let's pull up our VS Code and let's go into controllers and open up account controller. And right underneath sign in, let's create a new function called def sign_out. And opening parentheses, we need to pass in our connection struct, comma, and then we're just going to have an empty struct here as parameters. We don't need to pass anything in to sign out of an active session. And then closing parentheses, do and end. So one thing we'll have to do here is let's grab our account from our active session. So we can do account equals con.assigns and then opening square bracket and then colon account. And that will grab our account that is stored in our current active session, okay? And then token, we can get our token from our connection struct as well if we call guardian.plug.current token and pass in our connection struct. And that will return our current JSON Web Token. Now let's go ahead and revoke this token so it can no longer be used to access protected endpoints. So if we do guardian.revoke, and then all we have to do is pass in our token we just grabbed from the connection struct. And now con, and then we're going to pipe off of this. And now if we call plug.con.clear session, that will actually clear our account object that we have stored in the current session. And then we just want to pipe on that again and do a put status, and we'll make that an OK. And now we need to render a JSON response. So render, and we're going to use the same view that we've been using, which is quotations account underscore token.json, and then comma, and then we need to pass in our struct, which is our account. And we're just going to return the account so we know what account we actually just signed out of. And since we grabbed that, we already had in our session, we might as well. And then our token, we're going to return nil because there is no active token anymore. So we revoked the status of the last token, and that's all we need to do for a sign out function, which is pretty easy. Let's jump over to our router and create a sign out endpoint. And I like to group gets and posts together, but we want this protected. So inside our protected endpoints with the auth here. So underneath the get accounts by ID, let's do a get, and then we're going to do quotations /accounts /sign_out, close those quotations. And then we need to call our sign out function from our account controller, comma, and the name of our function we just created is :sign_out. And then let's just make sure we delete the alias up here that got automatically put there. And then once that endpoint is there, we can save it. And we made sign out a protected endpoint because only accounts that are already authed in to an active session should have access to signing out. Now let's go ahead and test out this sign out function, right? Let's go to our terminal. Let's make sure we're still running here. Our API is still up and running, so that's good. And we shouldn't have to restart it. It should just hot reload for us. But now if we go into Hopscotch, we still can use this token, right? We have access. There we go. We can get our user by ID. Let's create a new endpoint, which is a get. I'm just going to duplicate our get account by ID. And whoops, let's just rename it. And we're going to say sign out, save. And now if we go to our sign out function, we want to delete the ID. So we want it /accounts /sign_out. All right. And we're keeping our old token that we just used to get account by ID. And we don't need a body. So delete that. And so now if we hit this, we should successfully get our account object or struct back with a nil token, and then we shouldn't be able to use that token again after we sign out. So let's go ahead and hit send. Invalid token. Let's go ahead and just sign in again and grab this token. So client 2 is now signed in, right? Grab this token, and now let's go to our sign out function again, or our sign out endpoint, and put in our new bearer token. And so our current account by ID, let's save that. So let's do our account by ID. Let's do our bearer token here. And now if we hit send, okay, so we can still get account by ID, right? Client 2. And now sign out has our new, account by ID save. So now sign out has our new endpoint. Oh no, why? I just accidentally overwritten something. Let's do bear space. All right. And then we need to delete by ID and just do /sign_out. And now that we have our new bearer token from signing in, we can hit send. And there we go. We get our account we just signed out of, and then our token, which is null, which is exactly what we wanted, which is really awesome. And now if we go back to account ID with that same bearer token that we just signed out of and hit send, now we get invalid token. So we can't just keep using that token now until it expires. We actually made it invalid, which is pretty cool. We are now using Guardian.DB, which takes an active role and stores each token in the database, verifying it's present. If the token is not present in the database, the token can't be verified, and we get an invalid token response. This gives us the ability to revoke access to specific tokens at any time. As always, if you need help or want to check out the solutions, check out that GitHub link in the description. And if you have more questions or just want to hang out and chat, join my Discord server, backend stuff. That link is also in the description. If you want to learn how to build scalable, production-ready APIs, hit that subscribe button now. See you next time.